The illusion of convenience. You didn't notice when it happened. No one sent a memo. No billboard warned you. There was no loud alarm. Just a quiet shift, one subscription at a time. At first, it felt like freedom. You stopped buying CDs. You streamed music instead. No more heavy software packages. Just download the app. No more cable bills. Just Netflix. No more storing boxes of DVDs. No more upfront payments. No more hassle. It felt light, modern, smart. But slowly, the receipts started stacking up. Spotify, Netflix, Adobe, Microsoft, Amazon Prime, Apple, Google One, Dropbox, Duolingo, ChatGPT, Grammarly, your gym, your calendar, your storage, your design tools, your music, your workouts, your games. And then you noticed something strange. You were paying more than ever, but you owned nothing. No music you could play without logging in. No software that worked if you didn't renew. No photos stored on a drive you controlled. No tools you could modify. No knowledge that wasn't locked behind a paywall. Even your car could be turned off remotely. And when you stopped paying, it all disappeared. Like it was never yours to begin with. Because it wasn't. This is not just about streaming services or apps. It's not about convenience. It's about control. You're not renting a product. You're leasing access. And access can be revoked by them instantly. One missed payment, one policy change, one update, and your access vanishes. Because access isn't ownership. It never was. The world before subscriptions. There was a time when you bought something once and kept it forever. Your hammer, your books, your music, your bicycle, your tools, your education. They were yours. Not licensed, not borrowed, not activated by server. No expiry date, no monthly fees. When you paid for something, you got the whole thing. Not a trial, not freemium, not pro version only. You could fix it, sell it, give it to your kids. It was your asset, not a recurring liability. And with every purchase, you were building something, a collection, a library, a toolkit, a home. You were building wealth. Tangible, transferable, durable. But that world is vanishing. The shift no one warned you about. We were told it's easier, cleaner, cheaper. Why own when you can rent? But no one explained the cost of never owning anything again. Because the cost is not just financial, it's psychological, cultural, and spiritual. You're not just losing money, you're losing autonomy. You're losing the ability to say, this is mine. And when you lose that, you lose power. The trap is subtle. That's why it works. It starts small. $9.99 here, $15.99 there. Auto-renewed, auto-billed, auto-forgotten. You tell yourself, it's just a few dollars. But those few dollars, repeated across a dozen platforms over a decade, become tens of thousands. Money you'll never get back. And unlike ownership, you can't resell, reuse, or pass it on. You're not buying a product. You're buying time. Time that expires the moment you stop paying. And that's the genius of it. You don't notice the cage because the bars are made of convenience. From transactions to dependency. Every company figured it out. A one-time customer is a lost customer, but a monthly subscriber, that's income for life. So everything turned into a subscription. Software, storage, education, fitness, groceries, even cars. Your life, piece by piece, turned into a portfolio of ongoing expenses. You stopped paying for things and started paying to exist within ecosystems. You don't buy a tool, you rent the right to use it. You don't buy knowledge, you rent lessons with expiry dates. It's not that you're broke, it's that the model is designed to keep you there. This is more than economics. It's about power. Because what you own, no one can take from you. But what you rent can be taken any time. You've seen it. Artists deplatformed and lose all revenue. Writers locked out of their work. Gamers losing access to entire libraries. Farmers unable to fix their tractors because they don't, quote, own the software. And the most terrifying part? You agreed to it. You clicked, I accept. You gave them the power to cut the cord. So let's talk about what you've lost. You've lost ownership. You've lost permanence. You've lost control. You've lost the ability to walk away. You're not a customer anymore. You're a subscriber. And a subscriber is only valuable as long as they comply. Pay, agree, stay within bounds, or lose access. That's not commerce. That's control. But there's a way out. This video is not just a warning, it's a blueprint. Because once you see the cage, you can start to escape it. You can choose what to own again. You can rebuild autonomy. You can stop feeding the machine that drains you, one small fee at a time. And most of all, you can stop confusing convenience with freedom, because they are not the same. Next, we'll explore exactly how we lost ownership and why it was never accidental. Welcome to the truth behind the subscription cage. It's time to wake up. The ownership shift. How we lost what we used to own. There was a time when the word mine meant something. Your bicycle was yours. Your books lined your shelf, not your cloud. Your toolbox didn't come with a login screen. Your car wasn't connected to a remote server. And if something broke, you fixed it or found someone who could. You didn't ask for permission. You didn't need a license to open what you already bought. Because once you bought it, it was yours. That simple truth, the idea that ownership equals freedom, used to be the bedrock of the economy. But now, ownership has become optional, obsolete, even undesirable in the eyes of modern commerce. And somehow, you were convinced that giving it up was an upgrade. From records to rentals, the music metaphor. Let's start with music. You used to go to a store, buy a CD or a vinyl, and that music was yours for life. You could lend it, sell it, or just play it until it scratched and died. It was a physical asset. You could touch it, stack it, move it, give it away. It didn't require internet access, no login, no streaming rights, no expiration date. But today, for most people, music lives in the cloud, on a platform, behind a paywall, one click from disappearing. Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Premium. You don't own music anymore. You rent access to it, monthly. And if you stop paying, silence. It's not just music. It's a metaphor for everything. The software shift. You don't buy, you subscribe. Once upon a time, you bought Microsoft Office once, and you used it for a decade. Today, it's Microsoft 365. Pay monthly or lose your documents. Adobe Photoshop? Once a one-time purchase. Now a subscription bundle that locks you into an ecosystem you can't escape without losing access to your own creative work. AutoCAD, QuickBooks, Final Cut, even design fonts and music production tools now require monthly payments to stay current. And the moment you stop paying, the software deactivates. Your files become inaccessible. Your projects freeze in digital amber. You don't own your tools. You rent the right to touch them. The car you can't control. You probably think you own your car. You paid for it, you drive it, it's in your garage. But what if I told you that modern cars, especially electric ones, are slowly turning into subscription platforms on wheels? Tesla sells features like heated seats, autopilot, and faster acceleration as digital upgrades. The hardware is already there, but it's locked behind a software paywall. You can own the car, but not all of it. Not unless you keep paying. In some cases, if you sell your car, the features don't transfer. The buyer must subscribe again. Why? Because you never owned those features. You licensed them. And now some manufacturers are experimenting with monthly subscriptions for seat warmers, remote start, and even cruise control. Yes, cars are becoming apps, and you're not the driver. You're the user. The tools you can't fix. John Deere, one of the largest tractor manufacturers in the world, made headlines for something unthinkable. Farmers who paid 6 figures for a tractor couldn't fix it. Why? Because the software was locked. Repairs required authorized service centers, expensive diagnostics, and a license. If a farmer tried to fix his own tractor, it could shut down remotely or violate the user agreement, even though he bought it, even though it's sitting on his land. Ownership stripped away by a clause in fine print. Freedom replaced with forced dependency. This is not rural paranoia. It's a modern reality, and it's spreading fast. Rent-to-own scams and the illusion of progress. In housing, the trend is even more sinister. With the rising cost of real estate, more people are being pushed into rent-to-own agreements, where they pay inflated monthly fees with the promise of one day owning the property. But most never do.
Miss one payment, lose everything. No equity, no ownership, no refund. You were never buying, you were just renting hope. It's a pattern. The further ownership moves from reach, the more appealing the illusion of access becomes, and corporations know exactly how to price that illusion. The psychological surrender. We didn't just lose ownership. We forgot how to think like owners. We don't repair because we're not allowed. We don't download because everything lives on the cloud. We don't archive because platforms store it for us. We don't invest in tools. We rent them. We've become digital tenants in a world of rented everything. Even our memories, our photos, notes, and messages are stored on platforms we don't control. And if the service disappears, or your account is flagged, or your payment fails, years of your life gone, with no door to knock on, no one to call, because you never owned the keys. The lie of forever access. Many subscription services promise that as long as you pay, your access is guaranteed. But that's a lie. One exposed every day. Streaming platforms pull shows without warning. Cloud tools change terms of service overnight. Courses vanish. Software sunsets. Files disappear. Content libraries shrink while prices rise, and you have no recourse because you don't own what you're paying for. You just rent it until they decide otherwise. This is fragile living, a castle built on quicksand, and it's happening everywhere. Death by 1,000 subscriptions. You used to make a one-time payment and move on. Now you're locked into dozens of tiny recurring costs that never end. Let's say you have $10 a month for music, $15 for video, $30 for software, $20 for cloud storage, $25 for AI tools, $10 for health and fitness, $12 for digital books or learning. That's over $120 a month, $1,440 a year. In 10 years, $14,400 for products you'll never own, with no resale value, no equity, no lasting asset. You're not consuming, you're being extracted. You're not investing, you're leaking wealth. And this isn't a bug, it's the business model. The subtle theft of autonomy. You might still feel in control. You choose your subscriptions, you manage your budget, you're careful. But control isn't just about making choices, it's about having options. And as the world becomes more subscription-locked, those options disappear. Want to cancel? You lose access. Want to switch? Everything resets. Want to opt out of data tracking? Good luck. Want to fix your tool? That voids your agreement. You're not a customer. You're a compliant user until you're not, and then you're locked out. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you dared to walk away. You didn't lose ownership in one big moment. You surrendered it gradually, one monthly fee at a time, one checkbox at a time, one convenience at a time. They didn't steal it. They convinced you to give it away. And now we're all paying for that decision, monthly. The business model of control. Why they want you to rent. Let's get something straight. You're not in a subscription economy by accident. You're led here intentionally. One click at a time, one upgrade at a time, one free trial at a time. Because for the companies that built this system, subscription isn't just a payment method, it's a strategy of control. And more importantly, it's a gold mine. From one-time sale to lifetime extraction. Imagine this. You sell a product for $100. Great. You get your money once. Now you need to find a new customer to earn another $100. But what if, instead of selling it once, you rented it for $10 a month? Now you're making $120 a year, $600 in 5 years, $1,200 in 10. From the same person, from the same product, without spending a dime to acquire a new customer. That's not just profitable. That's predictable, scalable, and addictive. It's why investors love subscription models. It's why tech companies pivoted to SaaS, software as a service. It's why your favorite tool now comes with the recurring fee, because recurring revenue equals endless profit. Investors don't care what you sell, just that you rent it. Wall Street doesn't reward ownership. It rewards recurring income. They call it ARR, annual recurring revenue. It's the metric that makes valuations explode. It turns small startups into billion-dollar beasts. Because it's not about what the product is, it's about how often you can charge for it. Netflix doesn't sell movies. Spotify doesn't sell music. Adobe doesn't sell software. Duolingo doesn't sell education. They all sell access, and they sell it again and again and again. It's no longer about building the best product. It's about building a dependency loop. Subscription, the perfect trap. From a business perspective, subscriptions are perfect. They offer predictable cash flow, lower marketing costs, higher customer lifetime value, and locked-in user ecosystems. Once a user commits, they're unlikely to switch. Why? Because switching costs are high. You lose your data, you lose your progress, you lose your settings, you lose your access. So you stay. Not because it's better,
but because leaving is harder. This is not convenience. This is calculated captivity. The illusion of choice. They tell you it's your choice, that you're free to cancel anytime, that you can always opt out. But let's test that. Can you use Photoshop without paying Adobe every month? Can you access your old Spotify playlists if you cancel? Can you keep using ChatGPT if you don't renew Pro? Can you download your documents from Notion, Figma, or Canva with full formatting intact? Technically, yes. Functionally, no. Because the tools are designed to lose function, degrade quality, or become outright inaccessible once you stop paying. It's not about fairness. It's about friction. They want to make leaving just annoying enough that you don't. The habit economy. Subscription-based companies study behavior, yours. They know how long it takes for a free user to convert. They know how often you use the tool. They know when to trigger a pop-up, a discount, an upgrade prompt. They know the psychology of urgency, the danger of loss aversion, the appeal of exclusive content. They hire behavioral economists and UX designers to keep you paying just one more month. Because each month you stay, your resistance weakens. It's like a gym you never go to, but won't cancel. A service you barely use, but fear you might need. Subscriptions weaponize your own indecision against you. The ecosystem lock. Big tech doesn't just sell subscriptions. They sell ecosystems. Apple, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Adobe, Meta. Each one wants to pull you into their world, where everything works, as long as you stay inside. But if you try to leave, your files break, your data won't transfer, your purchases disappear, your workflows collapse. They've built walls around your digital life and called it a feature. You think you're choosing convenience, but you're surrendering freedom of movement. The longer you stay, the harder it gets to leave. That's not loyalty. That's lock-in. Why they don't want you to own? Ownership is dangerous to them. When you own, you don't pay forever. You can repair or modify. You can share or sell. You're independent. But when you rent, you pay endlessly, you have no control, you follow their rules, you rely on their updates, servers, and terms. Ownership puts the power in your hands. Subscription puts it in theirs. They don't want you empowered. They want you tethered, not just to the product, but to them. Because once they control the tools, they control your behavior. Case study: Adobe's masterstroke. Let's talk about Adobe. Once, you could buy Photoshop for $699. Use it for a decade. Own it forever. Today, Photoshop is $20.99 per month, minimum. That's $251.88 per year. In 10 years, $2,518.80. And you still don't own it. Worse, if you stop paying, you lose access to your files in Adobe's proprietary formats. You're not just renting a tool, you're renting access to your own work. That's not just smart business, that's strategic leverage. And every other company is copying it. The hidden cost: wealth extraction. Think about your monthly subscriptions. Now think about them over 10 years. Most people pay $1,200 a year for media, apps, and tools, $2,400 a year if you include cloud services, platforms, and hardware leases. That's $12,000 to $24,000 in a decade,
All gone. No resale value, no equity, no return. Now, multiply that by 1 billion people. That's trillions of dollars being siphoned from the public into the hands of a few tech giants. This isn't just income, it's wealth transfer. And it's happening in plain sight. The rise of programmable access. There's another layer, and it's even darker. Because once access becomes digital, it becomes programmable. That means you can be locked out remotely, features can be turned on or off based on payment or behavior. Usage can be tracked, priced dynamically, or throttled. Terms can change without warning. In this world, you don't just pay, you comply. Access becomes conditional, not just on money, but on your data, your choices, your compliance. One wrong move and you lose it all. Not because you broke a law, but because you violated a private policy. In the subscription economy, control is no longer democratic, it's corporate. This wasn't about serving you, it was about scaling you. They said this was for your convenience, for better service, for easier updates. But what they really meant was, we want to charge you forever. We want to keep you from leaving. We want you dependent. We want to control the conditions of use. This was never about giving you more. It was about getting more from you. And they've succeeded. You now live in a rented world, where access replaces ownership. And the price of convenience is freedom. In a subscription economy, the product is not the app, the tool, or the content. The product is you. Your attention, your loyalty, your behavior, your monthly payment. They don't care what you use. They care that you stay, and stay, and stay. Because you're not a customer. You're an annuity stream. And the cage you live in is made of recurring revenue. Psychological warfare. How subscriptions reshape the way you think. No one forced you to subscribe. There were no chains, no threats, no laws. You clicked agree. You entered your card. You welcomed the free trial. And that's the brilliance of it. Because the most powerful form of control is the one you choose without realizing why. This is not just an economic shift, it's a psychological one, a rewiring of how we perceive value, ownership, commitment, and freedom. The subscription model doesn't just change what you pay, it changes how you think. 1. From ownership to permission. You used to think in terms of owning things. I bought this. This is mine. I control when and how I use it. I decide who else can access it. Now you think in terms of access. I can use this, for now, as long as I keep paying. If the terms don't change. If the company doesn't go under. What was once a clear line, this belongs to me, has been replaced by conditional permission. This subtle shift rewires your relationship with value. You stop expecting permanence. You stop seeking ownership. You settle for access with strings attached. And once you no longer expect to own anything, you stop asking why. 2. Micro-pain psychology. Why small fees feel harmless. $9.99, $4.99, $14.99. Tiny numbers, barely a meal, easier than thinking. Subscription pricing is built on micro-pain theory, the idea that humans are more likely to accept many small costs over time than one large upfront cost. You wouldn't pay $300 for a music collection, but you'll pay $9.99 per month for 10 years and not blink. It's death by 1,000 cuts, but none of them feel fatal. You don't notice what you're losing because the price never screams, it only whispers. And by the time you add it all up, you've been bled dry slowly. 3. The end of ownership culture. Think about how we used to treat the things we owned. You repaired your car. You maintained your tools. You proudly displayed your books and records. You passed down furniture, watches, cameras. Ownership created connection. It encouraged care, customization, emotional attachment. But in a subscription world, that disappears. Why maintain what isn't yours? Why cherish what's temporary? Why protect what can vanish with one missed payment? So we stop treating our tools as companions. We stop investing in longevity. We stop building equity in every sense, material, emotional, and even spiritual. We become renters of experience, not builders of legacy. 4. Loss aversion. Why you keep paying even when you shouldn't. Here's the paradox. You stop using the app. You barely watch the streaming service. You haven't opened that course in months. You forgot you were subscribed, but you still don't cancel. Why? Because of loss aversion, the psychological bias that says humans fear losing what they have more than they enjoy gaining something new. You think, what if I need it next week? What if I lose all my progress? What if the price goes up and I regret leaving? So you stay, just in case. You're not buying value anymore. You're buying peace of mind, even if it's fake. This is how subscriptions turn into emotional insurance, and you pay it monthly. 6. The end of ownership culture. Think about how we used to treat the things we owned. You repaired your car. You maintained your tools. You proudly displayed your books and records. You passed down furniture, watches, cameras. Ownership created connection. It encouraged care, customization, emotional attachment. But in a subscription world, that disappears. Why maintain what isn't yours? Why cherish what's temporary? Why protect what can vanish with one missed payment? So we stop treating our tools as companions. We stop investing in longevity. We stop building equity in every sense, material, emotional, and even spiritual. We become renters of experience, not builders of legacy. 7. Convenience addiction. Why you don't fight back. They knew what they were doing when they sold you convenience. Because humans crave ease, we avoid friction. We default to what's simple. So when a subscription offers no setup, no upfront cost, one-click onboarding, instant access, you say yes, even if it traps you later. Convenience is not neutral. It erodes resistance. It makes long-term pain feel like a fair price for short-term speed. And it trains you to sacrifice autonomy for efficiency. The more convenience you buy, the less discomfort you tolerate, the less freedom you protect, the more you depend on them. This is how soft control is built, not by force, but by the comfort of not thinking. 7. Platform psychology. Why you feel trapped in ecosystems. Apple, Google, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft. They don't just offer services, they offer worlds, and once you enter one, you're surrounded by invisible fences. Your files are saved in their format. Your photos are on their cloud. Your purchases are locked to their account. Your tools only work with their other tools. This creates a sunk cost fallacy. I've already spent so much time, money here, I can't leave now. So you stay, not because it's best,
but because escape feels wasteful. And every platform designs for this, because once you're trapped by habit and data, you become loyal without love. That's not user experience, that's psychological hostage-taking. 8. The fading memory of possession. Ask a teenager today what it means to own music. They'll look confused. Ask a 20-something how to install software from a disk. They'll laugh. Ask yourself when you last held something you paid for online. Ownership is becoming a foreign concept. People no longer think in terms of having, only in terms of using. This changes behavior. Less saving, less investing, less planning. Why plan for the long term when everything is leased? Why build when you can borrow? Why preserve when you can just resubscribe? This is not just a market trend, it's a cultural amnesia, and it's accelerating. 9. You don't talk about it because it feels normal. Perhaps the most dangerous part of subscription psychology is how silent it is. You don't complain, you don't protest, you don't question, because everyone is doing it. It's just how things work now. It's normal, and the brain protects normal. But what's normalized isn't always wise. What's standard isn't always safe. What's common isn't always fair. And deep down, you know this doesn't feel right. That's why you're still watching this video, because part of you misses ownership, misses clarity, misses freedom, even if you can't name it yet. 10. The internal shift from builder to subscriber. Above all, subscriptions don't just change your spending, they change your identity. You stop seeing yourself as a creator, a builder, a producer. You become a consumer of rented things. You don't own the knowledge, you lease the course. You don't own the art, you stream the version. You don't own the land, you rent the room. You don't own your digital tools, you log into them. The tragedy is not just in your bank account, it's in your self-concept. You used to be someone who built something that lasted. Now you're someone who accesses something until it expires. And the worst part? You're getting used to it. The mind is the final battleground. This is psychological warfare, not with weapons, but with design, pricing, and dopamine. They've taught you to fear missing out more than fear being owned, to prioritize access over control, to choose ease over sovereignty, to pay forever instead of owning once. But here's the truth. You can think differently. You can reclaim that mindset of ownership, permanence, and power, because it starts in your head long before it shows up in your wallet.
Digital chains, the silent power of kill switches. Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding that your tools no longer work. Your photos are gone. Your files are locked. Your apps won't open. Your car won't start. And you did nothing wrong. No warning, no refund, no explanation. Just silence. Because somewhere, on a server you don't control, someone flipped a switch, and your life went dark. This isn't science fiction. This is already happening, right now. Welcome to the era of digital kill switches, the invisible chains of the subscription age. 1. The illusion of control. You think you're in control. You paid for the app. You have the device. You're logged in. You followed the rules. But the truth is, you don't own the thing. You own the right to access the thing until someone revokes it. And that power doesn't belong to you. It belongs to them. The platform, the provider, the parent company, the algorithm, the policy team. You're not the owner. You're a conditional user.
And the condition is, stay in line or lose it all. 2. What is a kill switch? A kill switch is a backdoor, a built-in mechanism that allows a company to lock you out, disable a product remotely, restrict access, delete content, shut down functionality, wipe data from your device. And it doesn't require your approval, it doesn't ask for permission, it just happens. Most products today come with these switches, hidden in terms of service, firmware, or licensing agreements. You agreed to them without knowing, without reading, because you just wanted to use the thing. And now that thing can turn on you. 3. When your car can be turned off. Modern cars are no longer just vehicles. They're computers on wheels. Tesla made headlines when it disabled features in a used car because the new owner hadn't paid for them, even though the hardware was installed. BMW proposed charging monthly for heated seats. Ford filed a patent for cars that repossess themselves, driving away automatically if you miss payments. You think that's a joke? It's not. Companies can already lock your car remotely, limit its speed, disable the starter, block charging, and alert law enforcement. That's not transportation. That's conditional mobility. And it doesn't end with cars. 4. Locked out of your own work. Designers have lost access to their Adobe files. Writers have been locked out of their Google Docs. Students have lost notes in premium apps after canceling their subscriptions. Not because of malware, but because of a kill switch in a subscription policy. You stopped paying, they stopped letting you open your own work. Even more terrifying, some platforms own your data once you upload it. Yes, your content, your voice recordings, your photos, your designs. Read the fine print. You didn't just rent the tool, you sold your creation rights by default. 5. Platform justice. One ban and you're gone. We live in a world where accounts are everything. Your business runs on PayPal or Stripe. Your identity is tied to Facebook or Google. Your audience lives on YouTube or Instagram. Your writing is on Substack or Medium. One violation of terms, real or mistaken, and you can be deplatformed instantly. No trial, no conversation, no chance to appeal. Just account suspended, access revoked, terms breached. You don't even have to do anything wrong. An algorithm can flag you. A complaint can silence you. An internal audit can wipe you out. And when that happens, your digital existence disappears. 6. Programmable dependency. In the past, tools were dumb. A hammer didn't care who used it. A book didn't track who read it. Today, tools are smart, but not for your benefit. They know who you are, how you use them, how long you've paid, what content you access, whether your behavior violates guidelines. And if you slip, they adapt, deny, delete. You live inside programmable dependency, where your access can be throttled, modified, or erased without notice. This isn't just surveillance, it's enforcement. And it's invisible until it's too late. 7. Subscriptions with behavior clauses. Many platforms now include clauses like, we may restrict access if behavior is deemed inappropriate. Violation of community guidelines may result in termination. And we reserve the right to suspend service for any reason. And these guidelines? They're vague, subjective, shifting. You might be banned not for breaking a rule,
but for triggering a machine learning flag. And once you're out, you're out. No appeal, no refund, no warning. You're guilty by algorithm, and your entire subscription history can vanish with it. 8. The kill switch economy, designed to control. Why build products with kill switches? Because it gives companies leverage over you, over your habits, over your future spending, over your ability to leave. It's no longer about creating value, it's about controlling the channel of access. And whoever controls access controls behavior. That's not customer service, that's digital feudalism. You don't own the land, you rent the right to exist on it until the landlord says otherwise. 9. From safety to obedience. Some companies justify kill switches as safety measures, to protect against fraud, to comply with the law, to enforce content standards. But these are not narrow protections, they are broad tools for compliance. You now live in a system where your tools obey their creator, override your decisions, monitor your inputs, punish disobedience, and silence disagreement. And the scariest part? Most of us accept this willingly. We click accept all. We assume they'd never do that. We trade freedom for features, convenience for compliance, until one day you reach for something you used to own and find a wall where there used to be a door. The mental prison. Even if the kill switch is never used, the knowledge that it exists changes how you behave. You self-censor, you double-check, you avoid saying what you think. You stay quiet because access is fragile. That's how control works best, not by pulling the trigger, but by letting you know the gun is always there. You modify yourself. You conform to survive. This is the true kill switch, the one inside your mind. The power to disconnect you is the power to own you. When they can turn off your life from a dashboard, you don't own anything, and more importantly, you don't own yourself. Kill switches are not just technical features, they're philosophical weapons. They redefine what it means to participate in society. Because if you can be unplugged, you are not free. You are conditional. And the worst part? You paid for it. Data is the new collateral. How subscriptions farm you. When you sign up for a subscription, you think you're paying in money. $9.99 a month, $19.99 a year. That's the cost, right? Wrong. Money is only the first layer. What you're really giving away, what's far more valuable in the long run, is your data. Because in today's economy, the most powerful currency isn't dollars, it's behavior, it's patterns, it's you. 1. Every click is a confession. Every time you use a subscription service, you're telling it something. What time you wake up, what music you listen to when you're anxious, what workouts you skip, what emails you ignore, what topics you read the longest, what shows you binge, what tools you rely on for work, how long you stay focused before you click away. You think you're just using the product, but in reality, the product is using you. It's not there to serve you, it's there to observe you and log it, analyze it, and monetize it. 2. Subscription is just a front for data harvesting. From the outside, it looks like you're buying access, but under the hood, you're being measured. Most subscription models are deeply integrated with data collection systems. Fitness apps monitor your body. Music apps track your emotions through genre choices. Productivity apps log your work habits. Browsers and AI tools record your queries, your tone, your thinking.
Learning platforms measure how fast you consume knowledge and what makes you stop. Why? Because this data creates a profile, and that profile is valuable to advertisers, insurance companies, credit agencies, political campaigns, pricing algorithms, and the platform itself. You're not just a customer, you're a test subject in a behavioral lab. And the subscription? That's just your ticket inside. 3. Pricing you based on who you are. Once they have your data, the game changes. You're no longer priced equally. Two users may be using the same tool, but one pays more. Why? Because data allows for dynamic pricing. They know your spending habits, your urgency, your digital confidence, your risk tolerance, your likelihood of churning. So they tailor the price just for you, not based on fairness, but on extraction potential. This is called personalized monetization, and it ensures that you'll always pay as much as you're willing to, sometimes more. Fair market value? That's a relic. Today, value is based on how much they think you won't notice. 4. From subscription to surveillance. Have you ever noticed how your ads change after using a new tool? How your social media feed starts echoing your recent searches? How your Spotify mood playlist matches your emotional week? That's not coincidence. That's integration. Subscription services often share or sell anonymized, or worse, pseudo-anonymized data to third parties. Your data flows through ad networks, data brokers, marketing clouds, machine learning pipelines, and corporate partnerships. You paid to use a tool, but you also paid to be watched. And often your usage data is worth more than your subscription fee. You're funding your own surveillance. 5. Predictive algorithms are sculpting your future. The data you give today doesn't just reflect who you are, it begins to shape who you become. Streaming services suggest what you might like. Learning platforms steer you toward specific content. Job search tools rank you based on inferred fit. Insurance companies price you by predicted risk. Ads feed your fears, desires, and weaknesses. This is algorithmic authorship, where your data doesn't just inform prediction, it enforces it. You stop exploring freely. You start following suggestions. You let the system decide what's right for you. And the worst part? You trust it, even when it's steering you toward what benefits them, not what's best for you. 6. You can't opt out of a system you live inside. You might think, I'm careful with my data. I only use trusted services. I read the privacy policy. But here's the truth. Once you're inside the subscription ecosystem, you're part of the system. You can't fully turn it off, because most apps still collect data even if you pay. Some offer no tracking tiers at higher prices. Others bury consent inside 40-page agreements. Even deleting your account often doesn't erase your data. And some sell the metadata regardless of what you agreed to. Data collection isn't a feature. It's the foundation of the model. And the longer you stay subscribed, the richer your behavioral file becomes. For them. 7. Data makes you more valuable, but not richer. Here's the irony. You become more valuable to the company with every click, but you don't see a penny. You create the content, generate the insight, feed the machine, train the AI, build the ecosystem, and you pay them to do it. That's double extraction. First your money, then your mind. Meanwhile, they turn around and sell your patterns to advertisers, refine their models with your behavior, launch new features based on your struggles, train AI using your private input. They get smarter, richer, faster. You just get more monthly bills. 8. Your data is your new collateral. In this system, you don't need to default on a loan to get penalized. Your data profile is enough. A health app reveals inconsistent sleep, your insurance premium goes up. A typing pattern suggests stress, your credit limit gets flagged. Your location data shows you frequent high-risk zones, higher loan interest. You cancel services too often, you're labeled disloyal and offered worse deals. You are no longer judged solely on action. You are judged on inference. And since these systems are opaque, you have no way to dispute, correct, or even understand them. Your data becomes a risk you can't see, but one that controls your future. 9. The most dangerous lie is, it's anonymous. Companies love to say, we don't collect personally identifiable data. We only use aggregate trends. We anonymize everything. But here's what they don't say. You can be re-identified with startling ease. Combining just 3 to 5 behavioral points can pinpoint a person. Even without your name, your behavior is unique. Data brokers stitch together profiles from multiple platforms. In other words, anonymous is a myth. If it walks like you, thinks like you, types like you, it is you. And in the subscription age, your digital behavior print is everywhere. 10. Your life is being modeled without you. Every app, every swipe, every hesitation, all of it contributes to your digital twin, a model of you that exists in servers, scored, ranked, and evaluated in ways you'll never see. And that twin is predicting what you'll buy, estimating what you can afford, suggesting how likely you are to cancel, deciding whether you get a deal, calculating what ads manipulate you best, even determining which version of the app you see. And you're locked out of that model. No visibility, no edit button, no control. You're living in a feedback loop where you train the system and the system shapes you. That's not just unethical, it's enslavement by insight. You're not just the customer, you're the product and the collateral. They told you it was $9.99 a month, but the real cost, everything you are. Your habits, your attention, your weakness, your curiosity, your digital self. In the subscription age, you don't just buy services, you sell pieces of your identity, willingly, repeatedly, unknowingly. And they're building empires on your data. The wealth trap. Why renting everything keeps you poor. You work hard, you earn more than ever, but somehow your savings never grow. Your bank account looks the same every month. You feel busy, stressed, productive, yet financially stuck. Why? Because you're not building wealth. You're renting life. And you've been told that's normal, but it's not. It's a trap, a beautifully designed, psychologically seductive, mathematically destructive trap, and it's keeping you broke. 1. What is a wealth trap? A wealth trap is any system that converts income into consumption, rewards short-term pleasure over long-term growth, keeps you paying without accumulating assets, normalizes endless expenses, and punishes ownership and delays independence. In the past, wealth traps were obvious: payday loans, gambling, lifestyle inflation, credit card debt. But now, the new wealth trap is more subtle. It's called subscription living, and you're in it. 2. The math is rigged. Let's run the numbers. You subscribe to $15 a month for Netflix, $12 a month for Spotify, $25 a month for Adobe, $10 a month for Google storage,
$30 a month for workout apps, $20 a month for writing tools, $40 a month for AI tools, $10 a month for language learning, $10 a month for news and education. That's $172 a month, and we haven't included software for work, cloud backups, meditation apps, or trial upgrades. Yearly total? $2,064. Now multiply that by 10 years. $20,640. That's a down payment on a house, a car, a business startup, a year of living expenses, 2 years of compound investing. Gone into rented pixels. No resale, no equity, no asset, no memory. You're paying to stand still. 3. No equity equals no escape. Ownership is leverage. It gives you control, resale value, borrowing power, and freedom. But subscriptions don't give you anything to leverage. You can't resell your Netflix history. You can't trade your Canva Pro access. You can't rent out your AI credits. You can't leave your cloud tools to your kids. You finish each year where you started, except poorer. No appreciation, no residual value, no wealth transfer. You're stuck in consumption mode, not wealth mode. And without equity, you can't escape. 4. You're building their wealth, not yours. Every dollar you pay in subscription goes into someone else's recurring revenue report, stockholder dividend, startup valuation, private equity cash out, or SaaS multiplier. You're not investing. You're feeding the machine that gets rich off your predictable behavior. Their model is simple. You pay small amounts forever. They own everything. You own nothing. Everyone claps at the earnings call. You become a line item on their balance sheet. Your loyalty is their capital. You're building empires, but none of them are yours. 5. Subscriptions normalize endless spending. There was a time when bills had limits. A phone bill, utilities, maybe a mortgage. Today, you've normalized having dozens of recurring payments. It no longer feels strange to have a subscription for sleep sounds, a monthly fee for a budgeting app, $15 a month to read articles, a calendar that charges you for themes, a to-do list with a $5 plan. These aren't luxuries anymore. They've become defaults. And every default becomes invisible. You stop noticing, you stop questioning. Your bank account bleeds in silence.
6. You can't save because you don't know where it's going. Ask someone today, how much do you spend each month in subscriptions? They'll guess poorly, because these costs are small, scattered, auto-renewed, emotionally harmless, financially forgettable. But together, they add up to a fortune. You feel like you're living modestly, but your money evaporates into software, streaming, digital tools, and perks you barely use. You're not bad with money. You're just playing a rigged game designed to be confusing, automatic, and forgettable. And you're losing silently. 7. You don't build because you don't own the tools. Wealth isn't just about saving. It's about building. You build a business. You build a portfolio. You build real estate. You build IP. You build systems. But you can't build if you don't own the tools. If your creative software requires monthly activation, if your data lives on rented platforms, if your content depends on staying subscribed, then you're not building, you're borrowing. And borrowed tools can be taken away. You need permanence to build. Subscriptions deny it by design. 8. You work more just to keep using what you already had. Think about this. You're not working to buy new things. You're working to keep what you already had last month. That's financial slavery. Imagine working every week just to maintain access to your old files,
Your photo archive, your code base, your AI prompts, your streaming queue, your favorite productivity templates. You're not progressing. You're paying to pause decay. You're working harder not to get ahead, but to avoid falling behind. And that's the real cost, the mental toll of never getting ahead. 9. Subscriptions reinforce paycheck dependence. The more subscriptions you stack, the more monthly obligations you create. The more obligations, the more you rely on steady income. This erodes your flexibility. You can't take risks. You can't take time off. You can't pivot or downsize or walk away because your life costs too much to stand still. And since your must-have expenses are mostly subscriptions, they're non-negotiable. Even worse, you believe they're necessary. You've become a prisoner of your own consumption, a captive to recurring charges. You've made your freedom conditional. 10. Subscription culture makes ownership feel obsolete. You've been trained to believe that ownership is old-fashioned, inflexible, unnecessary, expensive, and not worth it. But that's the lie, because ownership is how people accumulate value, gain leverage, exit the system, pass on wealth, and build legacy. You weren't meant to lease your whole life. That's not modern. That's a slow financial death. Ownership is not about pride, it's about power. And you've been convinced to give it away for $9.99 a month. Renting everything costs more than money. You thought subscriptions were about convenience, but they cost you wealth, optionality, flexibility, autonomy, peace of mind. And worst of all, they cost you the ability to walk away. That's not just bad budgeting. That's a system designed to keep you poor. You'll never get rich renting forever. You'll never be free paying for access. And now that you see the trap, you can start climbing out. The class divide. Why the rich don't subscribe like you do. Here's a question no one seems to ask. If subscriptions are so smart, why don't the wealthy live like this? They don't pay $14.99 per month for movie access. They don't rent-to-own furniture. They don't finance iPhones for 24 months. They don't lease software for basic tasks. They don't pay a subscription to store their own memories. Why? Because the rich understand one simple rule. Renting is for people who can't afford to own. And in the age of subscriptions, that rule has never been more true. 1. The rich don't trade autonomy for convenience. For the wealthy, time and autonomy are everything. They don't want to depend on external companies to access their files, maintain their creative tools, dictate their upgrades, threaten to revoke access over policy shifts, trap them into loyalty through lock-in systems. That's why they buy lifetime licenses, host their own servers, build custom tools, hire developers to create alternatives, invest upfront to reduce long-term obligation. Convenience is a trap when it costs you freedom, and the rich don't trade freedom for anything. 2. The rich build systems, not subscriptions. The wealthy don't buy tools that need monthly refueling. They build systems that run themselves. They own property that pays rent. They build businesses that cash flow. They acquire assets that grow without effort. They install software that's licensed for life. They use infrastructure that scales, not drains. They pay more upfront, but they're buying longevity, leverage, exit options, control, and peace of mind. Meanwhile, the average consumer rents tools, platforms, and experiences, hoping the next month feels worth it. That's not a system. That's survival. 3. Subscriptions create the illusion of access.
Poorer consumers are sold on access over ownership. Can't buy a home? Rent it monthly. Can't afford Adobe? Pay it monthly. Can't afford Photoshop? Use the web version, ads included. Can't buy MS Office? Try 365 for free. Can't hire help? Subscribe to a task app. It feels empowering until you realize you own nothing. The rich don't chase access. They secure ownership. Because access can be revoked, ownership can be leveraged. And that's the difference between a tenant and a landlord. 4. Poorer users finance consumption. If you look closely, subscriptions target the aspirational class, people who want premium tools, can't afford them outright, still want to feel productive or creative, are lured by ease and aesthetics, so they finance it monthly, without realizing they're paying more over time for something they'll never own. This is not access. This is digital debt. It's disguised as freedom, but it's enslavement by small, silent contracts. The rich don't play that game. They buy once, then own forever. 5. The rich think in terms of accumulation. Everything the wealthy do revolves around this question: does this build or drain? If it doesn't, build equity, grow value, reduce cost over time, enhance independence, they don't pay for it. That's why they hire tax strategists instead of renting accounting apps, purchase homes instead of staying in hotels, use unlocked tools instead of cloud-locked platforms, host their own knowledge base instead of subscribing to wisdom. Because they're not just thinking about today's task, they're thinking about ownership tomorrow. You rent. They accumulate. 6. You're stuck in the loyalty loop. They exit the system. Every subscription comes with loyalty points, progress tracking, gamified rewards, personalization, and lifetime value metrics. These aren't designed to serve you. They're designed to keep you paying. But the rich don't enter loops they can't exit. They don't let products become rituals. They don't get emotionally attached to brands. They don't fear missing out on features. They use tools to build wealth, then move on. You stay loyal. They stay free. 7. Subscriptions make the poor feel rich, and the rich stay rich by owning what the poor rent. Let's be brutally honest. You rent Netflix. They own Netflix stock. You pay Adobe monthly. They collect dividends. You lease a car. They lease fleets. You rent an apartment. They own the building. You pay $50 a month to store files in the cloud. They own the data center. This is the real wealth divide. One side consumes access. The other side controls infrastructure. The poor feel temporarily rich. The rich stay rich because they own the system. Subscriptions are a mirror of class. The deeper you go into the subscription economy, the more likely it is that you're consuming more than you're creating, financing things you can't own, dependent on ecosystems you can't exit, drifting from wealth, not toward it. The rich don't hate subscriptions. They just know when to say no. They don't rent out of weakness. They rent by choice, and only when it increases control. But if you're renting everything, not because it's best, but because you can't afford to buy, then you're not just a customer, you're a captive. And that's what they're counting on.
The end of true ownership and why it matters. You may think this is all just about money, about saving a few bucks, about budgeting better. But it's far deeper than that. Because the death of ownership isn't just a financial trend. It's a philosophical collapse. A silent erosion of how we define identity, security, creativity, and even legacy. You don't just lose things when you stop owning. You lose your relationship with reality, and you barely notice it happening. 1. Ownership was always more than possession. To own something wasn't just to have it. It was to claim responsibility for it, to understand it, to care for it, to master it. When you owned a book, you made notes in the margins. When you owned a car, you knew how it worked. When you owned a home, you tended to it. When you owned tools, you passed them down. Ownership shaped your behavior. It made you a custodian, not just a consumer. Now, you rent, you scroll, you click, you cancel. You use, but you don't build. You move on, but you don't leave anything behind, because you never really had it. 2. The disappearance of permanence. In a world of subscriptions, nothing lasts. Your playlists vanish when your plan ends. Your software locks you out when the server goes offline. Your notes die with the app. Your favorite shows disappear from platforms overnight. Even the fonts you used for years may be gone tomorrow. This is planned impermanence, by design. And over time, it does something to your mind. You stop creating for the long term. You stop building archives. You stop imagining permanence. You become a user of now, instead of a shaper of later. That's not progress. That's erasure in slow motion. 3. No ownership, no legacy. What can you pass on to your children? What are you building that lasts beyond you? If all your music, documents, photos, and tools are locked behind accounts, what happens when you're gone? Your streaming passwords? Deleted. Your cloud files? Locked. Your subscriptions? Canceled. Your digital creations? Wiped. You lived a full life, but left nothing behind, because nothing you used was ever really yours. This isn't just about storage. It's about continuity, inheritance, memory. And when ownership dies, so does legacy. 4. Creativity becomes conditional. When you own your tools, you can create without fear. No login required, no update interruption, no expired license, no paywall to export, no TOS clause limiting your use. But in a subscription world, your creativity depends on your compliance. Didn't renew? Can't edit your work. Broke a guideline? Locked out. App shut down? Files gone. Plan downgraded? Features disappear. Internet outage? No access. You become a borrower of ability, not a maker with mastery. And that changes your art. It makes you timid, disposable, ephemeral. Real ownership is the soil where deep creativity grows. Without it, everything becomes shallow and short-lived. 5. When you don't own, you can't defend. Ownership is power because it gives you a right to say no. No, you can't take this. No, you can't change this. No, you can't spy on me here. No, I don't need your service anymore. But when you subscribe instead of own, you become vulnerable. You're always one update away from losing function, one policy change away from losing access, one credit card error away from losing everything. You live under constant permission. You're not free, you're rented. And the worst part? You get used to it. 6. The psychological shift from stewardship to disposability. When people owned things, they fixed them, polished them, protected them, respected them. Now, when an app glitches, you delete it. When a tool breaks, you cancel. When a feature gets annoying, you uninstall. Nothing is sacred. Nothing is stable. Nothing is really yours. And when everything is disposable, you begin to feel disposable too. You stop investing. You stop committing. You stop thinking long-term. You start living on borrowed ground, emotionally and practically. That's not minimalism. That's detachment without dignity. Ownership was anchoring. Subscriptions float you into nothingness. When you own, you anchor your life. You have a place, a rhythm, a connection, a center. But with nothing solid, no tools you keep, no files you possess, no place that's truly yours, you float. You drift from app to app, service to service, plan to plan, without roots, without weight, without substance. This makes you easier to sell to, easier to push, easier to reset. You don't just lack ownership, you lack orientation. And that's exactly how they like it. This is not about having more, it's about becoming less. The subscription economy promised you more convenience, more access, more options. But what it gave you was less. Less control, less permanence, less creativity, less memory, less freedom, less future. You're not just renting tools, you're losing yourself. Because ownership wasn't just about things, it was about identity, continuity, responsibility, presence. And without it, we don't just lose assets, we lose who we are. How to escape the subscription cage. A practical guide to taking back ownership, wealth, and freedom. You've seen the trap. You've felt its weight. You've paid the price. Now it's time to break free. But this isn't about canceling everything overnight. It's not about rejecting technology or going off-grid. This is about reclaiming agency, one decision at a time. It's about shifting from dependency to ownership, from being farmed to being free. Because escaping the subscription cage doesn't start with your credit card. It starts with your mindset. 1. Shift your identity from consumer to owner. Before you touch your subscriptions, change your identity. Stop thinking like a user. Start thinking like a builder. Ask yourself before every payment, am I building or just borrowing? If it's building a skill you'll keep forever, it may be worth it. If it's building someone else's recurring revenue, it's likely a trap. This mental shift will help you filter every decision through a new lens. Does this create freedom or reinforce dependency? That's how owners think. 2. Run a subscription audit ruthlessly. Take 1 hour this week. Log into your bank account or credit card. List every recurring charge, monthly or annually. Don't rely on memory. Go line by line. Then, categorize each: necessary, rent, utilities, work-critical tools. Useful but optional: music, storage, convenience. Zombie subs: forgot about it, rarely use, don't need. Now, be ruthless with the red category. Cancel it now, not later, not after I download X, now. Then set a 30-day trial for every yellow item. If you don't miss it, cancel that too. This isn't about minimalism. It's about reclaiming flow. 3. Replace rent with ownership gradually. You don't need to live without tools. You just need to own them instead of renting them. Here's how. Replace cloud tools with offline alternatives. Buy lifetime licenses whenever possible. Use open-source software like GIMP,
LibreOffice, Obsidian, Inkscape. Download content instead of streaming endlessly. Store files on external drives you control. Buy digital media once and keep the files. Pay for downloadable education, not access-based learning portals. Yes, the upfront cost is higher, but you pay once and use forever. That's wealth thinking. 4. Build a personal infrastructure. Start creating your own digital space, not rented real estate. Your own email domain, not just @Gmail. Your own website, hosted, not platform dependent. Your own backup system, external drives plus cloud combo. Your own local knowledge base, Obsidian, Notion offline, Markdown archives. Your own password manager, local or open source. This isn't for paranoia, it's for resilience. If a service dies, changes terms, or locks you out, you keep going. Independence is infrastructure. 5. Own your entertainment. Streaming is fun, but dangerous long-term. Instead of paying $200 a year for media you don't keep, build your own digital library. Download what you love. Use public domain and Creative Commons sources. Buy digital albums or audiobooks you can own locally. Rediscover physical media, books, records, DVDs. Use free open platforms like Libby, archive.org, or Plex self-hosted. Owning media brings back intentionality. You choose what's in your world, not what an algorithm feeds you. You curate your space. You stop being passive. 6. Protect your tools from kill switches. Avoid tools that require constant internet connection, monthly reactivation, cloud-only file access, or remote deactivation policies. Prefer locally installable software, portable file formats, PDF, PNG, Markdown, .docx, open standards that aren't platform locked, and devices without forced updates. Also, keep offline copies of your critical work. Ask yourself, if this company disappeared tomorrow, would I lose anything? If the answer is yes, you're not free. You're vulnerable, and it's time to fix that. 7. Learn skills that reduce dependency. Subscriptions thrive on learned helplessness. They convince you that you need an app to focus, a template to write, a course to start, a coach to continue. Instead, become your own platform. Learn digital organization, Markdown, folders, naming systems. Learn file backup and restoration. Learn to build simple websites. Learn basic editing, text, audio, video. Learn to read critically without summaries. Every skill you learn reduces a future subscription. Every capability gives you power. Build yourself, not someone else's recurring revenue. 8. Embrace the buy once, cry once philosophy. We've been trained to fear big upfront costs. $300 is too much for software. I'll just do the $20 a month plan instead. But that mindset is how they trap you. Instead, flip the script. Pay more once and never again. Buy the tool, own the license, use it forever. Even if it hurts a little now, it saves thousands over the years, and it buys you something far more valuable than software: peace of mind. 9. Automate your escape 1 month at a time. You don't have to change your entire digital life today. Just start with 1 subscription per month. Each month, cancel something, replace it with an owned alternative, reinvest the savings, and move 1 step closer to independence. Track your progress. In 12 months, you'll have fewer obligations, own more tools, regain creative freedom, spend less monthly, and feel less stress. This isn't an event, it's a transition, one conscious step at a time. 10. Stay conscious forever. Escaping the subscription cage isn't about being perfect. You'll still need some services. You'll still subscribe to things. But now you'll do it consciously. Every payment becomes a choice, not a trap. Every subscription becomes temporary, not permanent. Every tool becomes empowering, not enslaving. You'll have fewer dependencies, lower stress, more flexibility, more savings, more freedom to walk away. And most of all, you'll remember what it feels like to own your life again. Reclaim, rebuild, refuse. This isn't just about money. It's about sovereignty. You can live in a world of platforms without becoming a product. You can use powerful tools without being powerless. You can engage with modern systems without being owned by them. All it takes is one decision. I refuse to rent my life forever. From that moment on, you're no longer a subscriber. You're a sovereign builder. Welcome back.
The fight for ownership in a rented world. This isn't just a trend, it's a war. Not with guns or bombs, but with contracts, checkboxes, pricing plans, and digital chains. And the front line is your everyday life. Because every month, every click, every agree is a quiet surrender, a trade, freedom for access, control for convenience, wealth for illusion. And most people don't even know it's happening. You were taught to rent your entertainment, then your tools, then your memories, then your education, then your community, then your identity. Now even your dreams are algorithmically leased to you. You've been taught to believe ownership is outdated, commitment is unnecessary, long-term thinking is boring, permanence is a burden, dependency is modern. But that's the lie, and it's time to stop believing it. Because when you no longer own, you stop building, you stop planning, you stop protecting, you stop imagining something that lasts, you stop being someone who creates and become someone who uses. And when that happens, you're not just in a subscription, you are the subscription. But here's the truth. You are not powerless. You can reclaim your time, your tools, your data, your money, your future. You can cancel what doesn't serve you. You can choose ownership over renting. You can invest in skills, not just software. You can become a builder in a world full of borrowers. You can refuse to live life on someone else's server. Ownership is not a luxury. It is not a relic. It is not a political idea. It is a human need, a psychological anchor, a spiritual defense, a statement. This is mine. I built it. I protect it. I choose what it becomes. And that mindset, that flame, is what they're trying to extinguish. But not in you. Not anymore. So start where you are. Cancel one thing. Download your data. Buy something that lasts. Invest in yourself, not just services. Choose hard once to avoid paying easy forever. Let ownership become a habit again. Let permanence feel normal again. Let sovereignty become your new baseline. And slowly, one choice at a time, you'll no longer just escape the subscription cage. You'll burn it down. Own your tools. Own your time. Own your choices. Own your wealth. Own your mind.
Because if you don't, someone else will. And they already are.